Okay, here we are. This is lesson one of drawing a Jaguar C-Type, and I chose this car because, in my opinion, it's one of the most beautiful race cars ever made. Maybe not the back part of it, but the front part. I just love how aerodynamic looking this is. It looks like a an airplane. It is so smooth and so nice, and just looks great. If you take a look at this car, you can see very easily where the D Jaguar got its looks. This has very much the same looks except for the air intake and the fact that it's a little taller in the front end, I think, over the engine. But this has always been one of my very favorite race cars of all time, and I think it looks just as good today as it did in the 50s. It's really beautiful. And this is also, going back to the D-type Jaguar, this is also the first time, as far as I know, that they used a hood and fenders that would tilt up like a regular race car, rather than a single hood that was in the center with fixed fenders. And by doing that, it made it very easy to service the engine to do whatever was necessary in a pit stop, whether to add oil or check fluids or whatever else they needed to do. But it just made things so much easier to do, and I'm sure that's why they did it. But I've only seen a couple of these in person because I'm sure they're tremendously expensive today. A very valuable automobile, but it's just such a cool looking car that I just figured, being as we had to do an old, it's turn to do an old car this time, that I would go ahead and pick one of my favorites and do it this way. And I'm very glad I'm finally getting a chance to do it. As you can see, it's kind of a loose sketch. I had a photograph, and there are some things that I can't see very well in that photograph, so I'm going to have to do a little bit more research on some of the things that I can't see too well. But it was the prettiest picture that I could find of the car, the best angle and such. So even though it's rather dark and some of the things are in very serious shadow, I decided to use this one, and I think it's going to be a really good choice because it's a great position to look at the car from. It's very slick looking, and it's going to, I think, be one of my very favorite drawings that I've ever done. Now there's a company that is, actually probably a couple companies, but there is a company that I've heard that is redoing these. They're making replicas of them, and from what I've heard, in all ways, they're just, other than being updated with some later components that are more reliable and such, they said that these are just an amazing car, and it would just be a blast to drive around in a car that so many racing greats drove during the 50s. Really terrific car. Anyway, so what I'm starting to do, like I always do, is work on the darker parts of the car, like in the fender wells and underneath the car where the cast shadow is. And the reason I do that is so that I know where the darkest parts are going to be. Even though I don't darken them all the way up yet, at least that gives me a place to work against, and then I sneak up on the values for everything. I'm working with black ink, and the black ink virtually can't be erased. It can be lightened a little bit, but it can't be erased. So it's very important that I don't get too dark, or I'll have to make this into a black car. And if I do, that makes a whole bunch of changes that I don't really want to get into. So what I'm doing now is putting in the darker parts, darkest parts I should say, and they will be darkened more in the final run through. But for right now, at least that tells me where I'm going to be working against with all the other values. So I'm going to make it so all of the car is not dark enough yet, and then in my final cleanup, then I'll darken up what needs to be, and balance off all the tonal values one against the other, because I want to use a wide range of tones so that the drawing isn't boring. I want to make sure that it has a wide range of tonal values, and that will make it more exciting, more dramatic, and it's just going to make it plain look better. So that's where I'm going with this. As you can see, I have some lines on it that are cast shadows in the drawing, so I'm trying to put some of the details in that'll just give me the little things that are going to be cues for me to be able to do this. And I don't put everything in that I see in there. I put the things in that I think will make a good picture of it. So there's a lot of stuff that I leave out as well. Okay, that's getting pretty close to what we're going to have for today. Again, just doing the little details and some of the things I couldn't see too clearly, so there's still a little bit of work to do to it, but I'll clean up the drawing a little bit tomorrow, and then we'll also go ahead and do the rest of the dark parts. Anyway, that's it. I hope to see you back here tomorrow, and we'll do a lot more underneath it and on the dark. Thanks.